co-leader, and that's really what gets us up in the morning in terms of building a world-class global sports property in MMA. And you go back to the customer, we talk to the customer. You know, people within the MMA world, there's been no innovation in MMA in 2+ decades. And so we came in, a lot of people said, by the way, we talked to consumers. Some consumers said, that format won't work. It's not football. You're a football guy. You guys are stick and ball. You don't know what you're talking about. Boxing doesn't work that way. Well, boxing broke it. You know, they're trying to fix it. And in MMA, but what we said, but we heard from other fans, another group of fans who were positive on it. And we took that negative, but you know what? I bring it back to sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So you have to have conviction. You got to believe in the vision. You know, once you pick the lane, you do your best to get that marketplace data, all the stakeholders, starting with the consumer, and then you got to weigh it all. But you go. And I'm happy to say we brought those people on board, those naysayers on board. And then for us, all starts with the product. Build a great product. You know, pick your
in the last minute. And by the way, BK, I see you say, Gary, he started interrupting the other guy. I have no interest in interrupting Pete. I've got 10 minutes and I want to get amazing stuff out of him, and 10 minutes is a tough format, so I apologize. Pete, just for fun, closing part, because we got 1 minute.
Sure.
What's the first fight that you got excited about as a kid? Which I'm going to assume is either boxing or maybe even wrestling, WWF. As a kid, just a fun thing to get an insight to who is Peter Murray. What was the first fight that caught your attention as a child?
Yeah, you know, I'm the youngest of 5, you know, older brothers, and, you know, Muhammad Ali growing up, he was an icon. So, you know, every Ali fight, you know, I was sort of hooked. And
how old were you when Ali fought Holmes? Because that was probably the one you were old enough that had hype.
Right, I was in grade school, you know, and
were you devastated?
Absolutely. Yeah. But, you know, what he stood for, you know, not only his you know, he's a champion, but you know, his stature and socially, you know, he was captivating. So, you know, that really hooked me.
Peter, thank you, my friend. Have a great day.
Thank you, Gary. Take care. See ya.
Next, we welcome Morgan DeBaun, founder and CEO of Blavity Inc., the leading digital company for Black culture and millennials. Blavity reaches over 100 million readers per month through a portfolio of media properties, including Blavity News, Afrotech, Travel Noir, and more. Morgan has been a renegade and a serial entrepreneur starting when she was a child. Welcome, Morgan.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Morgan. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey.
Let's just get right into the child part first, just because, you know, that makes us, you know, brother and sister right off the
100%.
bat. What was your childhood hustle? Because that's where I always get most smiley.
Look, I was hustling the stock market when I was about 14. And 13, 14 is when I first started like investing. And then I also, in middle school, they banned candy and vending machines. It was like when everyone was trying to be healthy. And so I went to Costco or Sam's Club with my mom, bought a bunch of candy and started selling it, you know, and, you know, ultimately I got in trouble. But yeah, I was like, the demand's not going anywhere.
I once said to somebody when I started becoming an investor, I'm like, I have no interest in seeing any startup from anybody who has not been in trouble in middle school slinging something.
That's right.
Illegal as shit, like weed or lollipops, it's all the same game because that means it's in your blood, right? Like most 100%. Kids aren't like you and I going to the store thinking, oh, here's a flip.
Right. Margins.
And by the way, the candy margin game in school is still one of the greatest margins that has ever lived.
Absolutely. You go to Sam's Club, it's like, what, $15 and you get an entire case? What?
Buckets.
Yeah.
Morgan, let's go into the question and we'll bounce around a little bit. Like, you know, you've had this incredible success as such a young woman and a powerhouse so early in your career. Oh, that can only happen, only when you actually know what makes the customer tick. You know, I would say the candy hustle was easy. Kids wanted candy. As you've matured into who you are today, you know, how do you figure out what makes a customer tick? How do you do it?
Yeah, today it's about emotion, right? Like, what is that emotion that you can bring to the customer? So for Blavity, there was a feeling of loneliness. That was the feeling that I had when I was kind of in the tech world and working my full-time job in tech, and was like, I love it here, but this is super lonely. Like, what am I supposed to do in my free time? What am I supposed to read? How am I connecting with people? So actually figuring out what emotional problem you solve for somebody makes it really, really sticky, because then they feel something and they remember it. You know, it's not just a passing piece of content or a passing interaction. It's something that actually sticks with them.
Are you good at, if you were self-assessing, and I know you're young, so like that keeps evolving, but at this exact moment, do you think you're good at scratching your own itch as a consumer figure-outer? Or do you think you are good at research, like black and white data? Do you think that you've got the ear? You know, for me, I'm like, oh, I'm a music AR. I just do it for life, right? I can't explain it. I just know NFT. I just know this. I just know that. It's just in me culturally, because I think my empathy for humanity makes it come logical to me, which is like why I play in so many pockets. Where do you think your strength is of those three, a mix of the three? How do you break that down?
You know, I think when I first started, I was solving for my friends, myself, and the problems that I had. And so it was definitely, it was a scratcher. But to get to scale, you can't just scratch yourself, right? Like, I am not a travelista, but I know that travel noir, you know, is something that emotionally, travel, aspiration, getting that vacation, or just getting out of your city, is something that everybody wants to do, and that there was nobody doing that for Black people. So that was also, to some extent, intuition to what other people may need, and then listening, just like straight up looking at what's trending in the mainstream white millennial media spaces, and then testing it with an audience that's underserved. It sounds simple.
No. Like, you're talking to somebody who literally thinks the only thing that matters is simplicity, which is why it's impossibly hard, because everybody who's listening right now, including us, we're taught by society and school to complicate it. And very few of us were able to luckily go into a cocoon of our own DNA, or have parenting, or have some other force of the outside that was allowing us to not conform to complexity.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You said something that I really liked, and I want to double click into, because my obsession with this show is to put people on that I want people to know, and for everybody who's watching right now to get something, truly something that they can build on. I like what you just said, and I want to play with it a little bit, because I do it not in the exact way to the audience that you do it, but I do it overall. You're watching what's happening in mainstream white America, and you test it. Do you test it in the pure form that it's playing out over there, or do you test it with some contextual twist that you're using for understanding the nuance, the slang, the perspective that it might garner, or do you do both?
That's right. So I'll take Afrotech as an example. It's a big tech conference. You know, it's the #1 Black tech conference, and we just came in and crushed the entire competition of Black tech conferences at that time. What I did was I went to Google I/O, I went to F8, I went to the big regular mainstream tech conferences, and I said, oh, wait a minute, you guys have huge, beautiful booths, you guys have champagne, you guys have incredible spaces with great visuals. We're not at a hotel by the airport, we're in the main center. And I just duplicated that, but for us. But instead of having like boring speakers, I had rappers, I had producers, I had, the who's who of the Black innovation economy, which doesn't always look the same. I did also have your design folks, your engineers, but it definitely was a Black version of the pattern that was best in class.
But what do you think is the sneakiest data source, whether Black or white, meaning like data or quant or qual? What is the sneakiest quant or qual data source right now you think in society? Where's some of the ways to figure out the tick that maybe people are underestimating, or just completely not looking at, or just to have fun here, what's the most overrated? Where do you think, I think, I can see you're ready to go, so I'm going to let you.
I'm like, I got a lot of different things that I sneak that people are like, what, really? Yeah, so I always look at our competitors' websites, and we figure out what their top articles are per the month and per the week. And that just gives us insights into topics that are trending that maybe our audiences have never been exposed to from us, but we know they want to read, or we know that they're interested in. Instead of trying to guess, it's like, well, if Michael B. Jordan is trending, then like we should maybe write more about Michael B. Jordan.
By the way, on the record, Michael B. Jordan should always be trending.
He basically is always trending.
That's my 2021 statement. Michael B. Jordan should always be trending.
He pretty much is, 100%. I agree with that. Yeah.
Keep going.
Look at your competitors. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at your direct competitors, what's working for them, and figure out if you need to test that. And then the other thing is,
I'm sorry, go.
Yeah, and then the other thing I was going to say is look at where your audience is and where they're playing next. So when Clubhouse was coming out, I'm friends with the Andreessen Horowitz guy, so I was like early on Clubhouse, and then I was like, oh, this got black really fast. Okay,
yeah.
What's happening here? And do we have this sub-demographic of the black community? If not, that's great. Now I get to learn more about what they're interested in, and then we can apply that to our channels, right? So it's just always studying your audience.
Clubhouse was such a gift, and Twitter Spaces and Facebook right now, you could be passively listening in the backdrop to the current conversation of normal human beings.
That's right.
It was like the most, my biggest problem was I needed to create a fake account.
Right.
Because
you get invited every single time.
Yeah, I was
same thing. I'm in the bathtub right now, guys. I cannot talk.
100%. I miss the days when nobody gave a shit about me, or because that was like good listening. Now it's like a little bit harder. Final thoughts on customer tick. One more word of wisdom in the last minute. Thank you for being on.
Yeah, I think the last thing is I read a lot of emails from other industries. So I think that's just getting outside of your own self has been really helpful to just like what's going on in the climate change industry, what's going on in fintech. And, one of the things that I've learned really early is that Black people, we're early adopters. So even in fintech, it's like, cool, Coinbase and all these other companies that we're using them more than average, or like Cash App, right? So learning about what your customers are using from a technology point of view, and even in just different industries, has helped us stay ahead of the curve when it comes to content creation and topics of conversation.
Well, it's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
Next up, we've got Bobbi Brown. And for the two people that don't know Bobbi, as a professional makeup artist, she created 10 simple lipsticks and launched her billion-dollar brand, Bobbi Brown Cosmetics. She left her namesake company in 2016 to return to her roots as an entrepreneur, launching a line of wellness and beauty ingestibles, an editorial platform, and a boutique hotel. Welcome, Bobbi.
Thank you so much. And did you get it? Did you get in the makeup company, which is kind of the biggest thing I've done? So, my reason for getting up in the morning, besides being able to see my friend Gary, if this is the only way I could socialize with you. Hey, Gary, how are you?
Bobbi, I've literally decided that I basically do all these different content series so you could be a guest on what I do. So it's so nice to see you. Having a good summer?
Great summer. I'm ready for fall. I'm not going to lie, but I'm ready. I've had a great summer.
As somebody who I think just has an innate superpower of understanding the audiences she's been trying to go after, what do you think it is about your DNA or the process you have? There's a lot of people listening right now who are in different parts of their journey, starting out, or CMOs of the biggest companies in the world. How does one tap into figuring out how a customer ticks?
You know what? It's so much more simple than anyone ever gives it credit for. It's simple. I mean, when my market research, which I hate those terms because it's so corporate to me, is start with my friends. If my friends like something, I'm like, that's a good start. My sister, my kids, and then you could, then you've got your entire social, stratosphere to ask questions. I knew I had a hit with Jones Road when I started just listening to the, customers and telling me exactly what they think and feel. So, I'm like you, I talk back to people. It's in my nature. But so much of who we are and what we do is right in the palm of your hands. And so many brilliant founders and CEOs, they think there's something out there that they could, learn or get from someone else. And by the way, the answer is in the room, always.
With Jones Road, what was your hypothesis, and then what adjusted as you listened along the way?
You know, it's exactly what I had in my mind. It's what I probably would have done, you know, if I had the power and ability to change things when I was, you know, part of a big company. That was impossible. So, and it was just, everything was just really timely. So when I launched, you know, I couldn't talk to anyone about it before I launched because I had a non-compete. So the day I launched, it was like, you know, taking a chance. People will hate this, because so much of makeup in the industry is heavy and contoured and thick and very popular, and this is the opposite of that. But I really believed in it, and I believe there was enough people that want this. I don't expect to get everyone, but you know, if anything, I think that I've been blown away by how many people actually want to wear makeup and just look and feel better. And it's really, again, you know, I'm a Chicago girl. Everything is simple to me.
Yeah. Talk about that simplicity, the Chicago girl. Do you think that people put too much academics around consumer behavior?
100%. And, you know, the good news about me is I get overwhelmed reading brilliant things that people say. It like clogs my brain. So then I just start all over and think about what I really think, and then, you know, figure out what to act on. Don't get me wrong, I surround myself, you know, with brilliant people that know things that I don't. Like my GM, you know, we happen to have a great relationship. She could explain to me, she's 31, I could explain to her, and it works. But, you know, so much of our story is the same, because we're not your classic, you know, educated anything. You know, my business degree I got from life, as did you. And I had a store in my basement growing up with my friends, a jewelry store. It was gorgeous and wonderful, but you know what? There was no foot traffic, so it didn't really succeed.
You weren't able to convince some of the neighbors to come through?
No, I don't think my parents let me, but we did have
we're not letting strangers into our basement. I mean, given the fact that you built from the streets, then you have this incredible opportunity to sell your business, which is a monumental thing for many entrepreneurs. Then you're in a corporate environment, which for street kids like you and I is like,
yeah.
You know, like I have an agency that works with corporate companies, and it's hard for me, but I still control my business. My compassion towards what you had to go through during that time, but it's difficult, right? You know, for us, our companies are our babies. Now you're watching it in this conglomerate, and back to your point, we learned by doing. A lot of people in business learn, you know, get into positions by reading about it. Like, what was the, you know, because I know there's a lot of people watching right now who are considering to sell their company. You know, there's obviously the financial gain that comes along with that, but there's an emotional aspect towards that I don't think a lot of people talk about. Instead of going, because I want to stay on theme, I'm going to go into a very narrow place of this. What surprised you, without naming names or going, you know, but what surprised you about the out of touchness of big corporations with the consumer, and what did you learn, and what are some of the themes there and things for people to look out for if they sell their company and have to navigate that business within a big company?
Right. Sorry, there's a lot of answers with that, so I'm going to be really brief. First of all, the thing
you got 4 minutes, so yeah.
I need 30 seconds. So the main thing that I learned working with a lot of people at the table in really beautiful suits from all over the world, but honestly, it was a very good-looking, you know, crowd. What I learned was everybody has an idea. Everyone knows better, and because I'm not one of them, I listened to them, and I could fight, and I wasn't going to fight. What I learned is to listen, to sit back when it was time, give my opinion, and say to them, and this also is why I'm happily married 33 years, that I hear what you're saying. That's an interesting idea. Because that's, honestly, you know, you have to figure out how you get along with people to make the best decisions for your company. And now that I have, you know, 12 people that work for me, and my only investor is my business partner, my husband. So, you know, it's the same thing. I hear what you're saying, and I want him to say it to me. I hear what you're saying. That's kind of the most important thing. And I do advise a lot of founders. They call me up and they ask me, and I'd give them the good, bad, and the ugly. And, you know, I stayed 22 years after I sold the company. I don't know.
That's insane.
No,
That's
it was
incredible.
insane. And Gary, who would think that at 60, I left the company, I was 59 years old. I'm 64 now. You know, I founded a new makeup company. Who in a million years would have thought that, you know, there is life after one big thing you do? Yeah. Yeah.
You know this. I'm obsessed with this. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's the matter with people?
Yeah.
You are more on fire and vibrant right now than 87% of the 29-year-olds I know on earth. Like, I don't understand why people, listen, we've, as a society, have started to go after certain issues around the world, like around gender and race and religion. We need to start talking about ageism. Like this concept that, like, we have 36-year-olds, Bobby, who are watching this right now who think their life is over and they fucked it up. They didn't do that. Like, people are confused as fuck with age, Bobby.
Yeah, but this really great thing that's happening right now, there's so many bad things in the world happening, but the really great thing is everyone has permission to do something else, to stop whatever isn't working for you. Don't do it and do something else. And just, I don't care what it is, you'll figure out how to make money. But just follow your dream and take chances. And honestly, don't forget about happiness. Don't forget about your health. And don't forget about your personal life, you know, your kids. Like, all those things actually matter. And, you know, work is my joy. But, you know, one day I'll have grandkids. And, you know, I think I'll be an even happier person.
Of course. And it's amazing. I mean, like, we both live this life. It's amazing to have work be your hobby. We spend so much time on work. So many people look at work the way I looked at school. I was depressed 6 to 18.
Yeah.
Do you know what Sunday nights in the fall, winter, and spring felt like for me? Like the worst. I hated it. And the fact that people from 22 to 68 live in that place, fuck. Like, people like, Gary, you don't understand, I have bills. I'm like, live in a shittier house.
Right.
Live in a fucking shitty, have a shittier car. Don't buy $4 fucking coffee. Like, fight for happiness.
Get a roommate, figure it out. By the way, if you were my kid, because my third kid hated school and wasn't happy, so I let him go to school in Colorado. You know, as a parent, you've got to kind of follow each individual personality and figure it out. Which is the same thing as your employees. Everyone has, you know, things that they're good at and things they're not.
100%. Bobby, love you. Talk to you
Love
soon.
you too. Bye.
Amazing. Thanks to you both. Next, we welcome Sophie Jameson, the Chief Tick-Tock Officer at Nerf. And what a story she has. Her creative content and love for Nerf earned her over 1.8 million followers on TikTok and ultimately a C-suite position at Nerf. She was just a junior in college when she landed it. And today, Sophie's going to be interviewed by our very own Peter Chun, SVP Global Head of Partnerships and Growth at VaynerMedia. Welcome to you both.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for that intro, Andrea. Sophie, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I've gotten so many messages from people just asking me so many questions to ask you. And this is just such a gift for us to have you on today. So thank you. But we have limited time. So let's get right into it. I think one of the first things everyone wants to know, Chief TikTok Officer, first of its kind, give us the origin story. How did it happen? What was going on? I mean, just looking at your backdrop, it's a pretty natural thread that I think most people can pull, but give us the reveal. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'll make it quick for you guys. So I was posting on TikTok right around last year, right when COVID hit. We were in quarantine, didn't have much else to do. Got around 1.5 million followers, and then Nerf created this job where the application was via TikTok, which was really cool in its own regard. So I made a TikTok, applied, and then had a formal interview. And then they said, we'll call you back in a bit. And then they called me back 12 hours later, and I got the job.
You know, I remember when we first spoke and you told me the 2 weeks, we'll get back to you in 2 weeks, and it was actually 12 hours. That to me is just such major props to the Hasbro Nerf organization and just understanding what their strengths are and what they need to figure out and being able to put you in a place to move so quickly. So huge congrats. So tell us about the role. Like, what's the job, the day-to-day? Do you truly have autonomy? We talk a lot about having this freedom in a framework because of all the things TikTok requires, which is speed, and kind of moving at the speed of culture. But tell us about the day-to-day and almost a little bit around, your role and how the infrastructure of the organization supports you. Because I think a lot of companies are looking to figure that out now.
Yeah, so it is a very independent job. I don't really have anybody checking in, on a day-to-day basis. I create around 5 TikToks a week, and then we go through a whole process of making sure that they're okay, and then posting them in the following weeks. But if there's a trend, which is super important, a trend that's trending on TikTok, we'll hop on it and usually produce a piece of content within 12 hours of seeing the trend. So just expediting those approval processes. Typically, I just send it to my boss, and even if he doesn't get it, I go, no. It's gonna work, trust me. And then the best part about just the Nerf team in general is that they're so welcoming to mistakes, which I just think is so crucial in this landscape. We'll post a TikTok and I'll say, I'm so sorry, that didn't do well. And they'll say, what are you talking about? We learned so much from that. We'll never do that type of video again. And that's invaluable, which is a really cool perspective.
Wow. So how often do you think things don't work out on the platform, but there's an insight gained that helps empower the next version?
Yeah, I'd say even, 75% of the time or something insane like that. If you're posting every day, 1 hits a week. That's typical. And then all the other ones, you learn and improve.
That's such an important point. And I feel like even folks at Vayner, we are a very contemporary, creative media strategy organization. And we love hacking platforms and moving quickly. But even within our own organization, there is this sense that we can go viral overnight on the platform. And coming from you, it's just great to hear 75% fail. And so the notion isn't to start to think about, oh my gosh, this isn't working. You just have to continue to post more and more, get into comments, learn, grab the insight, and reproduce, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Which gets us kind of to the next question here, which almost every person was messaging me about, which is, what makes a good TikTok?
Yep, and I wish I had a secret formula and I could just say A and B, bam, you're viral. It's not that easy. The first thing I always say is, and applies to everything in life, enjoy what you're making. If you make a video and you don't like it, you can immediately tell, and people are going to be turned off and not want to watch it. I'm passionate about every single TikTok that I create, whether or not it does well. That's honestly the most important thing, and that comes in together with authenticity and just being yourself on camera, creating TikToks that you actually like, and then just continually learning, from past mistakes. Like I said, you kind of start to create your own formula, and it's going to be different for every single influencer, every single brand. There's no one size fits all, which I actually love, but it's also a headache for a lot of marketers. But there is no one size fits all on TikTok.
So look, two things. You already dropped 2 gems on everybody here. One, which is 75% of the TikToks you create won't work. And 2, it's almost like every TikTok requires something new, and you constantly have to be creating and innovating there. Are there any kind of recent learnings you've had from the posts you've put up, Sophie, that just seem to be kind of, not to say you need to game the algorithm, but the algorithm obviously is a huge component here. Brands trying to hack the For You pages is always top of mind. And less the tips to hack, but kind of what seems to be working today?
Yeah, definitely just doing the trends and seeing what the viewers like, what gets really great engagements. And you can learn a lot from your comments. You can, they're not always positive, but there's a lot that you can learn from them. And if you take it with the right attitude and perspective, every single comment can give you some piece of insight. But we also have just been doing this format where we try to be as real as possible and just be like, this is what it's like as chief TikTok officer, kind of pull the curtain back, and those tend to do pretty well as well.
Yeah, you just mentioned something there about being real, number 1, and number 2, that not all comments are positive. And a lot of our brands, I think, struggle with the speed of reacting in comments and posts, and we like to call it splintering different TikToks off of what seems to be working, because of just kind of structure that they have internally, but also just their concern, and I don't want to say insecurity, but just you don't want to have to deal with a PR comment or a bad brand comment. But what do brands need to have in place to be able to move quick? What have you put in place that you think Nerf allows? And if it's kind of, we discussed freedom in a framework, but is it just truly you just have to test and learn? But what do some brands and organizations?
You're breaking up so bad, unfortunately, right now. On my end.
Oh, yeah, it's just, can you hear me now?
It's not terrific, but I can answer what I heard of the question. So as far as that goes, we all have a lot of autonomy on the Nerf brand, and we all have access to the TikTok account, and then we just have, pretty basic common sense and then like legal rules of what to respond. But, at any time, there's like 4 or 5 people that are, casually going through the comments when they have a chance, or replying to other brands' content as well, which is also a super important thing, is to comment on other brands' TikToks and just do something fun. And we comment on a lot of those, and those tend to do well, and we grow from them as well.
Hey, Sophie, can you hear me?
A little bit.
Bit of technology challenges, but I think we're going to keep it going. Incredibly helpful. But 2 last quick questions, or maybe just one last question.
Peter,
any
come on
brands
in here.
that stand out?
Come on in here, Peter. We're just going to do a quick, he's right next to me, even though it doesn't look like it. I think for whatever reason, your internet's not working, mine is. Come on in here, Peter.
Wait, that's so funny.
All right, let's keep it going. I know we only have a couple minutes. Just 2, I guess one last question. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Sophie. This has been incredibly insightful. Rapid fire learnings. I just think so many brands have really good takeaways on what they need to be doing differently. But who are some of the brands you admire on the platform that you think are doing a good job today?
Yeah, so when you first asked me this question last week, I had some like really big brands come to mind, but there's a couple, really smaller brands that I think are just doing phenomenal, and 90% of their marketing budget is TikTok. One of them is Jersey Bird Official. They literally are just like a custom hockey jersey company, but their TikToks are fire. They always do super well. They're pretty hilarious. They come across my For You page like often, and it's made me want to make a custom jersey. And then another creator is Utopia US, and he creates custom clothing for a bunch of different brands. And the format of his videos is also just phenomenal. It grabs your attention immediately on the For You page, and both of them, I think all of their marketing is via TikTok, which is super cool.
Yeah, I think we're all waiting for that next wave of disruptors, which is really going to be seeded and built in TikTok first, understanding how to connect with that audience. Sophie, thank you so much for all of the information and education you provided today. And just a huge thanks to Nerf as an organization and Hasbro for just being so forward-looking and creating a role like you to just help educate the market and brands. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie, and best of luck. What an amazing opportunity. All right, up next, we welcome Roger Soleil, CMO of Wework. Roger is my hero, not only because he was born in Barcelona, Spain, but also because he has over 20 years of leadership experience in marketing, but also in innovation of products and services. When Roger was CMO at Sprint, he was named one of the world's most innovative CMOs by Business Insider in both 2016 and 2017. And he's all about the Chiefs and the Royals. Today, Roger will be joined by VaynerMedia's SVP of Media, Antonia Swan. Welcome to you both.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much. So, Andrea kind of stole a little bit of my question, Roger, but first off, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. I think as Andrea mentioned about your amazing background and how impressive it is, I think the audience, everyone really wants to know before we get into Consumers Tick. You were the CMO of Sprint during the T-Mobile merger, which I'm sure was an extremely challenging project. And then you chose to join Wework as CMO about a year and a half ago amid the whole COVID-19 crisis. What were you thinking when you took that role and were going into it? Like, where were you?
First, I like exciting projects, I guess, right? So, look, when I joined Sprint, it was also about doing a turnaround, which we did from 2015 to 2020, and then once we merged with T-Mobile, then my assignment was over to say, okay, what's next, right? And look, Wework, it's a brand that I've always admired. They have built a very powerful and interesting product. Now, you're right, in April 2020, when I joined, it was right after the failed IPO, and there was all this noise about Wework. But I think that's exactly what it was, a lot of noise. And ultimately what I looked at is what's going to be the future starting now, right? So we had this new management team, new CEO, wanting to do things very differently. Then I look at the actual unit economics of the business. They are strong, and ultimately what matters most is the product was extremely loved by customers and is. Our NPS is very high, we have very loyal members, and the product was a truly innovative product in a category that had not been disrupted for many years. So ultimately, look, it's all about challenges this life, and I love the idea of helping find a way for Wework to grow. And I saw also ultimately the pandemic was obviously also a big problem, but also a big opportunity, right? As all problems are, right? So ultimately the idea was what's going to be the post-pandemic world, right? The pandemic is not going to last forever. Now, even if it's lasting a little bit longer than we all expected, but the point is, what's going to be the world of office space and workspace needs and collaboration and teamwork in a post-pandemic world, right? And we all knew it was going to be different. And I think that Wework is the best company to be able to find a way, right? And to find a new way. That's why after I joined, we created this new positioning that we call That's How Tomorrow Works, which basically what it shows is, hey, we are the future of work. We are the new ways of working are going to be created with companies like Wework, and then we supported this with the different evidences, like first health and safety being a priority, of course, but then our product itself being a flexible product, a flexible office space, which is something that we're leaning in even more and more. Right now, our position is pivoting to smart flexibility, which is ultimately nothing more than in these uncertain times in giving employees and companies the ability to develop their own hybrid models of work, and for that they need a provider that actually gives them flexibility in how they in office space. So a space that it has no capex, that they can go and use it and scale their teams up and down whenever they want to. So ultimately giving this total flexibility and giving them the ability to have their teams be more productive than ever without any long-term commitment, and with inspiring spaces that they can find whenever they want, right? So that was the idea, to rebuild and to pivot the positioning more from a co-working space to an actual flexible space provider. So that was the opportunity I saw.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You jumped into many things that I want to talk about really quickly. So the pandemic is obviously a super big part of this, but two things. You came in to Wework and you were super innovative, and you guys created new programs, new products. You pivoted as the consumer was changing their habits. So two questions in this. Consumers for you are also two different things. You have B2B and B2C, which is very unique, and people have very different opinions, whether they want to work from home, whether they want to go in once a day, or if you're someone like me, you want to work from New York one week, you want to work from LA another week. How are you guys thinking about that, and how consumer trends are changing, and how you guys were able to really pivot to that? I know you only have 3 minutes, so I'll let you jump.
Okay. No, look, great question. I think the consumers, companies, they are looking for a way to get their employees back together in a safe environment, and more importantly, in a creative environment where they can collaborate and create magic and also build culture for their companies. So that's an important thing to do, and that's the need that we're trying to solve for, right? And we know that the future is not going to be like the past, right? Even after the pandemic. So it's accelerated trends that already happened. So no one is looking for spaces and cubicles for people to be 9 to 5 answering emails. It's about creating intentional spaces where people can collaborate. So that's the actual need of companies. And then as the employees or even professionals or consumers, they're looking for places where they can be simply more productive individually. They want to escape this work from home, which many times it can be difficult, and they want, we coined it as work from near home, right? Places where you don't need to commute, you can eventually walk there and find a great space to work and to find other people, and maybe with other people from your company or even from all other companies that ultimately create this great work environment. So this is one of the needs that we've seen. And in terms of the products, that we've been pivoting them exactly to adjust or to adapt to these needs, right? So in terms of this consumer or also from the enterprise side, we created this product that we call Access, which basically it's a monthly membership that gives you the ability to go work on any Wework around the world or around the corner. And mostly what's happening is obviously around the corner. So you can really escape from this work from home, or you can have small teams gather into a place to collaborate. That does not need to be the corporate headquarters, which eventually requires a huge commute, or it's simply closed, right? So then basically you can have this flexible space available. We even have created a version of that we call on-demand access, which is basically an app where you can book space by the hour or by the day. And we've seen amazing growth on that, and it's the ultimate flexibility of office space. So that's been connected to that need of consumers. And then from the enterprise side, we've leaned into creating this concept of innovation hubs or collaboration hubs, which ultimately is a space that is designed for collaboration and where you are not really buying or leasing 10 spaces for 10 people. You're leasing the space maybe for 100 people, and then they rotate and collaborate, and they go whenever they need to, and they find this purpose together in that space, right? So that's the other products that we've been developing, adapted to these new trends.
Love it. So super interesting. So you guys have clearly just gone after flexibility, almost like a class pass, but of the future. One last question. I know it's 12:50. I know you love soccer. What's your favorite team? It's
Barça, Football Club Barcelona. I was born in Barcelona, and look, this is my team. Even though, as you mentioned before, I've been following the KC Chiefs a lot these last 5 years as I was in Kansas City. But big change from soccer to football.
Great. Thank you. I believe. I think we might have a few more minutes since no one else is jumping on. Okay. So I would love to know. Hey. One more question. I was about to jump in.
Okay, we'll get so many more questions, Roger, and I think we have all the answers behind you. Is that right, on that board?
Yes, whatever. What do you want to know?
All the secrets, that's right.
I'm here.
Amazing. Thanks to you both. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Okay, take care.
Last but definitely not least, we welcome Lynn Schlesinger. She is the Chief Customer Experience Officer at Forbes. And Lynn stepped into this new role just last month, where she's responsible for delivering digital transformation and growth by connecting with customers across Forbes. Today, Lynn is going to be joined by Nick Miridis, EVP at Vayner and I'm going to bring him on. Watch this. 5, 4, 3,
magic.
2, 1.
It's like magic. Hello. Hi, Lynn.
I love that. Hello, Nick. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
There could not be a more perfect title for this episode of this show, Chief Customer Experience Officer. It's a newish title. I've been seeing it in the world. Some announcements recently. I think it's a newish role for you, but maybe we start there. Where, what is this new role all about? What are you fired up about in this new role?
Well, I am so excited about it. It is very new, just about 6 weeks since we made the announcement. And what we're really trying to do at Forbes is position ourselves for what's next. Forbes has been in business for over 100 years. We've got huge plans to grow and scale and create new products and services to support all of our audiences. And I'm going to be looking at through the lens of data, technology, and marketing. And how do we create this incredible customer experience wherever someone is interacting with us, no matter which product or which solution they are connecting with us on.
So the true end-to-end, looking at it, the full 360 of the experience. It's pretty cool. And sticking true to the title of this episode, in that new role, how do you and the Forbes team think about figuring out what makes customers tick? I mean, that has to be an everyday, always-on thing in the world of publishing. Different from my life in advertising, where we have a little bit more time. But how do you think about it?
So we think about it really broadly. We have so many different customers at Forbes, and we really try and consider each of their different needs. We have readers of Forbes.com. We have folks who engage with us through the social channels. We have print subscribers who are reading our beautiful publication every 2 months when it hits their mailboxes. We have event attendees and event speakers. Those are other audiences we consider and care for. And then we have our incredible marketing partners, another group of customers that are super important to us and who we want to elevate the Forbes brand so that they can elevate their messages through our different channels.
How big is listening, when it comes to how customers tick? Is it the secret sauce when you got that many different customers too?
It's such a big part of what we do, and something we are now getting uber focused on, and really trying to understand what do our audiences need and what do they need from us at different points of their journey. Forbes is incredible because we are the business media brand for folks who are starting their entrepreneurial journeys, whether they're young adults or even high school students who are entrepreneurial, have an entrepreneurial mindset and want to be on the 30 under 30 list someday. We have mid-career professionals. We just launched our 50 over 50 franchise, focusing on women who are doing incredible things at the middle of their careers. And then we have an incredible loyal audience of folks who are working with us through retirement and financial planning as they look to enjoy the fruits of all their labors through their entire career. So we really have this incredible arc and incredible long-term relationship with our readers in particular. And we do listen. We listen to what they say, certainly when they provide us direct feedback. We see the kind of content that they're interested in reading, and we want to create more of that content so that they can always stay well informed. And we have a slew of new products on deck that we will be launching hopefully soon, that we know based on market research and things we understand from where people's desires are from receiving content that we're going to be bringing to market later this year and next year.
Cool. It sounds like, in the publishing world, you definitely don't think about this as an eyeball game. You think about it as a community building game. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. We became super focused on communities about 1.5 years ago. And we really look at developing these long-term relationships with all of our different customer sets. When Forbes started, we really were focused on recognizing the doers and the doings, both in our pages and in the articles that we write, but also in how we create. You see that a lot with our incredible live events, both virtual and in real life these days. And Forbes really started with the ethos of, business was intended to bring joy and happiness. And we want to help continue that. And the community part is really important. And we look at not only executive level communities, C-suite communities, but we're also really engaged and really in touch with the Forbes women community, with our Forbes the Culture community, our different entrepreneurial communities, our Paramount. We want to help all of these folks who want to learn and engage, help them be successful on their journeys.
And it sounds like you have to operate both in the digital world and hopefully, as hopefully COVID passes, eventually back in the live world as well.
Absolutely. And we think a lot about our print publication too. We have 6 beautiful issues a year. The tactile experience of receiving it in the mailbox and sitting down with a cup of coffee or a cocktail at the end of the day and enjoying that experience is really part of what we think about as well.
Yeah. When it comes to the customer relationship, and what makes people tick, how big is trust in your world? As a consumer of media, these days it's like, I don't know what to think half the time when I'm looking at a headline. Is that a factor in how you think about, customer relationship?
Absolutely, because without trust, really, what do you have, right? We want to continue to be a loyal partner with all of our customers and all of our audiences, and there's trust not only in the journalism and the content that we bring to life, but there's also trust in how we handle customer data. Right? Are we doing with it what they've given us permission to do? Are we, do we have the okay to send marketing materials? Do we have the okay to invite people to participate in community activities or different forums? And we take that really seriously.
It's a thing I've been thinking a lot about is what marketing activity are we all doing as marketers that are actually like, having the consumer push back on us, with whether it's how we use data, whether it's the constant spamming through email, like, is that something you all think about of like, how much is too much, how in the living room can you be with people?
We do. We try not to be intrusive. We try to take the cues and the information that we have to send people relevant information, send them relevant content, so that their time spent with Forbes, whether it's through the print pages or the digital pages or at an event, is valuable time spent, and they can walk away thinking they got from it what they hoped to.
True. We got 1 minute left. Let's shift gears a little bit. So as you as a customer, right, who I'm sure has lots of brands in your life, what brand are you insanely loyal to? How good are they at understanding how to make you tick? What do you look for in the brands that you love?
Oh, that is such a hard question. I have to look careful about how I answer that. But I'm a really big fan of Peloton and was before the pandemic. I luckily got my bike almost 9 months before things started to shut down, and I have really found great joy in the brand, in the content they deliver, and the experiences they allow for. One of the things I really love is that I can work out myself and do my own thing in my own basement, or I can join a group class and really be part of all of the energy and excitement that can come with that. So I think they've done that really well, and they've definitely had some hiccups along the way, but I think they've handled them with grace and transparency, and I can't wait to see what else they come out with.
Amazing. I think I'm going to go in after that. Oh, Audrey's back. Hi.
Thank you, Nick. That was amazing.
Awesome.
It's a nice being together.
Are you going to close this thing out?
By the way.
We are double backs.
We are double backs.
Are you going to close this
I'm
thing
going to close it out.
All right. Then thank you so much.
Thank you both. I'll see you soon.
I'll step out. Do your thing.
And congratulations, Lynn, on your new role. How exciting. Love this new title that's coming out. All right, well, we just wanted to thank everybody for joining today's Marketing for the Now. And please join us on September 16th, 12 to 1 p.m.
Mark your calendars.
Eastern Time. You'll be hearing all about what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur from founders and CEOs, including Alexis Ohanian from Reddit, Mindy Grossman, CEO of WW, otherwise known as Weight Watchers, Lauren Malian, the CEO of Digital Undivided, and Shelley Haas, the CMO of Ulta Beauty. And until then, hashtag Marketing for the Now. Check us out on our past recordings, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody, for joining today.